All right, guys, and welcome back to the Warrior Unfiltered podcast. This is episode 12, I think it is. We're here with myself, Louis, Henry, and Billy. Today's topic, we are going to be talking about expectations for first timers. Obviously, we'll just kind of go off the cuff and we'll take it from there. Anyone really want to take this off from the get-go?
Bill, I think Billy should.
What? Yeah, Billy, obviously you're first on air,
Yeah, man.
the first appearance. If you want to
I think
take...
a good place to start. Not necessarily an expectation, but more so a mindset. A mindset perspective would be good to start on, in terms of what it is that you're looking to take away from the whole experience. Because I think for the most part, I think we've seen it quite a lot where it's someone who has never gone through anything as physically and emotionally demanding as a competition prep, and already expecting whether it's a certain placing or some type of card or qualification, but they're almost missing the importance of absorbing everything from a competition prep from an emotional standpoint for what it is, and almost looking too far in advance, if that makes sense. So they're kind of bypassing everything that you should be extrapolating from a prep, rather than actually submersing yourself in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so basically, like, analogy for that, it's like playing your first football match as a kid and thinking about playing for Man United because that's what you think you're going to do.
Definitely. Definitely.
Do you know what? I'm sick of hearing first timers talk about road to pro and stuff like that, man. Just do a show first, please.
You know, I normally see it. You see it's normally guys, it's normally males that I see it quite often with, right? And it tends to be a person of a similar personality. When you look at these people who are coining their first timer preps as, like Henry said, road to pro, or they're talking absolute drivel about what the outcome should be for them, rather than just, like I said, submersing themselves in a prep. Because I've seen it so much, right, where it's like, I'm gonna absolutely smash it. I'm going for first and nothing less, and they've absolutely shit the bed on their prep, and it does nothing for you from a mindset perspective, from a mental health perspective, and what that does for you and your enjoyment for bodybuilding and a competition prep for what it should be anyway. I've seen it firsthand this year.
I think a lot of that comes down to your circle as well. I think if you're a big fish in a small pond, if you're in a small gym and you are the big guy in the vest, you're kind of like, because like in that environment, like you're the kingpin, so to speak. And I think that's why it's more males, because you very rarely get a female that's going to walk into a gym and everyone's going to be like, what the fuck, from a muscular standpoint of view anyway.
That's why I said about it being a personality.
Yeah.
Right?
And
I
like,
could be that. Any of us four could be that person that walks into the gym and is the it in that gym. But none of us, from what I know, have the personality to let that get to our heads, right?
I think even if it is, if you're in a solid circle, like, I'll talk to you obviously because like we're both in like under Dan. If we walked into Dan's group chat with that mentality, you just get told to fucking shut up. Like, I mean, we're two of the less muscular people in that group chat anyway. When you look at some of the monsters that he's got in there now, and it's like you just be told like shut up, like know your role almost, sort of thing. It's like when you're in the right circle, even if you are genetically gifted and you are that good, it's drilled in for you from day one. Bodybuilding is bodybuilding. You don't know who's going to turn up. You don't know what the judges are looking for. And it doesn't matter what you look like in the gym or what your mates tell you or what your missus tells you or what your friends tell you. What them 8 people think in front of you, it doesn't really matter. Because if they don't like your physique, you're fucked anyway.
Yeah. Just a point to note, your friends, unless they're in the industry, your friends and family are always going to think your physique's good, even if it's a pile of shit.
Yeah.
So
my
that
mum
really
hates
doesn't
him.
mean anything.
Perfect example. I remember one guy, Louis Fulton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was helping him out for his first prep in 2015, 16, and he was like the only one who competes in the gym that we were training at. And every time I looked at him, I was like, "You're going to smoke it. You look so good. Like condition was on point." But we had no one to compare to other than just himself. So, like you were saying, Henry, everyone's always going to say you look great, and I was being biased. But as soon as we went to the show, I was like, "Fuck." Obviously,
Yeah.
not anything away from him. He still looked good, but we're only comparing him to him. That's it.
And I think like Louis is a good example. I mean, obviously he's a very good bodybuilder, and obviously that was what 7 years ago. So he's probably changed. He's changed a hell of a lot since.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I'm not saying he's one of those people because he's not. But you look at his Instagram, he looks like a monster. Like when he's there in his like his hoodies or whatever. Like he's a unit anyway. But I think sometimes you get people who look very good on Instagram and they get so many likes and things like that. And that just goes to their head. They're like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Because no one posts a shit picture. No one posts a shit picture at all.
Yeah, I was going to say
like
that.
going off their Instagram feedback of how good they look when their pictures are structured, their pictures are not filtered to fuck. They're stood next to someone who's soft out under good lighting in the gym.
Yeah, I think it's
That's those
self-sabotaging. It's self-sabotaging because obviously you put that pressure on yourself because you're putting everything out there on social media and you're like, oh, road to the pro cards. Oh, I look phenomenal, this and that. So you're just putting that pressure on yourself and it becomes self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I post pictures quite a lot physique-wise, but I just like to just track my progress. But then I would never post something with like a cocky, arrogant caption like
Exactly. You
"I'm
don't
gonna
make
smoke
noise.
everyone."
You don't make noise with it. You just post. It's more of a, here's just an update.
It's the manner in which is put out, mate, is what.
It's when people put the picture up and it's with the noise. Oh, I'm really big bollocks. I've got all the genetics. I look the best. Blah blah blah. If you're just putting up an update because you just want to keep your followers or whatever you want to call them, you just want to keep them informed with what you're doing. That's fair enough.
It makes my toes curl when I see people's posts and it's like I'm gonna absolutely smoke this year and I
Did anyone know? Look, I'm not going to name the name, but everyone in this group chat know who it is. There's an Instagram bodybuilder who was prepping this easily. I think he's got over 50k followers, and he showed up at Greywick to registration, and no one ever saw him again. He's never posted since because he obviously saw the big boys backstage, shit the bed, and left.
This could be.
I'll text you. I don't want to just.
I know.
If you're ever going to watch this podcast, but I'm not naming
stick it in the group
person.
chat. Yeah, but like, and that's the thing. It's like it's unrealistic expectations. I think that's what it boils down to. It's having realistic expectations.
Yeah.
And I mean,
That's
if
been overbuilt.
I think with all,
Oh yeah, that was a weird one actually. Yeah, that was a weird one.
He said that he spoke to Illuminati and shit like that and said that steroids are bad and quit bodybuilding.
That's a prime example of like what's a good kind of phrase for it, like walk before you can run type thing. Do you know what I mean? Dip your toe, see if you're actually about what you think you're about before you start talking about it, before you start dishing out smoke and creating all this traction, because more often than not, you're going to be setting yourself up for a really fucking hard time because it's not always going to be what you think it is.
Yeah.
And that's a typical case of he's probably never been to a show. He's got backstage and thought, fucking hell, these ain't like the geezers at the gym. These are like, these are heavy hitters now.
I think like the polar opposite to that is as well, especially with first timers. It's been far too far down the other extreme. It's being told that you're lean, being told that you're in shape, and really like, I mean, I don't agree with the whole what's gone on, like something to do with PCA, but what's gone on their Instagram, where they've posted their competitors and people have been absolutely drilled into the ground for the shape they've turned up in and stuff. And you don't know what their story is. Like, agreed, like they're not in shape. They shouldn't be on the stage in that shape. But do they genuinely know that, or do they have the support network to be able to tell them you shouldn't do that? And like,
I think we need to remember as well, like PCA is it's an amateur stage and a very amateur stage as well. When people are commenting things, you know, like with it be conditioning and whatnot, you're not commenting on bodybuilders, you know, without borders and big pages. You're commenting on like Mickey Mouse showings, for example. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do you know what another thing that winds me up about this as well? The PCA ones. The two points, right? You get these people like they sit there and wait for someone to be posted, and so it'll be like a first timer comment, and they'll be absolutely talking shit. Firstly, I think if you're not at the show and seeing it in person, you can shut the fuck up because everyone. I mean, Bill, you know, because you've been on their Instagram this year. You look. I don't know why, but that PCA videographer takes 25% of condition off of you.
So like the pictures are actually really good. I don't know.
But in the video they put up for me, I looked fat because I remember watching it when I got off stage. I was like, "Am I that fat?" And like, but everyone does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm referring to the people that were actually out of shape. Because there was quite a lot of bullying on the feeds this time around, like last week, and it's like, what were their expectations? Like, an analogy I used, like when you go to a fairground, you watch the ride before you get on it, and everyone does it. You don't walk up to a ride at Alton Towers or Chessington Park, or whatever, and be like, "Oh, I'm going to jump." Like, you watch it. Like, how many of these people have actually gone to a competition and seen the expectations and what's the reality of it and how lean you really have to be? So again, those videos give a false perception because like you didn't look anywhere near as lean in the video. Like, I watched you at the Midlands, I watched you at the finals. Like, you were inside out. Do you know what I mean? And it's like the opposite end of people thinking they're too good or they're going to smoke it. It's like these people think they're good enough, and for some reason, no one has had, like, whether it's the balls to tell them or the heart to tell them, like, do next year, like, come back, be better, like, get yourself in a shape where you can get on stage, because like that could ruin that experience for them.
Yeah.
If you've got an inexperienced coach who's put you on stage out of condition and you're that person that's getting all those hateful comments, you might never want to bodybuild again.
That's the point I was going to say on that. It's like these people probably have never been to a show before. They've probably prepped themselves, and because I know good coaches letting you get on stage like that, they probably turn up on the day. And let's be honest, they're not idiots. Like, they have probably got off stage and thought, "I've made a cock up here," and felt like absolute dog shit. They don't need you to then go and comment, "Look at the state of him, look how fat he is." Like, they're probably telling themselves that on the drive home, realistically. And if they're not clever enough, or if they're like mentally challenged that they think they look fine, you also don't need to bully those sort of people because there is.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, and obviously I don't mean no disrespect to anybody, but do you think genuinely that's how they feel? Because you could say that falls under the same umbrella of those people who are delusional, thinking they're pro-worthy.
Definitely like a mix of. There's definitely a mix.
Realistically, they sit there in the car on the way home and think, "Oh, I look so out of shape, fat."
I think a lot.
I think some will, and then you will get that delusional group. Yeah,
but you can. I'll be devil's advocate.
Wait, hold on, one at a time, Billy.
A large majority of first timers are not driving home with their head in their hands. They're driving home thinking, "Thank God that's over," because I had a fucking miserable experience with how I handled it. They're not thinking, "Oh yeah, I could have been. I was in shape. I was peeled." They're probably thinking, "I couldn't give a shit what I looked like because I felt like arse and I didn't enjoy the whole experience."
You'd say more so just for that justification.
Definitely, yeah.
Sure, I'd be devil's advocate to that point. I mean, I personally don't think it's the time or a place to like do this sort of thing. But if someone was, I don't know, hugely overweight, and they were like, I don't want to win. I don't care for winning. I just want to lose enough weight that I'm confident to get up on a stage in a bikini or in a pair of trunks or shorts and just say I did it.
go and do Miami Pro.
I know that. Yeah, I know that. I'm not saying I agree with it.
Yeah.
But they might be happy that they just did it. That's my point. And again,
you know what? As much as I think go to do Miami Pro, who am I to tell someone they can't go on a website, book a ticket to an event, and take part?
Yeah.
You get what I mean? But they haven't done anything wrong. They just, at the end of the day, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what other people think of it, does it? And the short of it, okay, they got on stage, they was overweight. Has it affected anyone really?
No.
Really.
No, realistically, the only person it's likely to affect is themselves when they actually reflect on how they looked and how they stood on stage against other competition and or other athletes and actually realize, oh, do you know what? Maybe that wasn't as sensible a decision as I thought. And then you've got someone that will never want to try and do any form of competition or a prep ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the other day, I posted this on my story and you commented on it, Henry, about the PCA comments that I made and they got removed. And I think all it was I wanted to preface in that at the end of the day, you've got to have the expectations of when you are competing in a bodybuilding show, you are there to be judged on your physique. Now, that doesn't mean just from the judges alone. It's also from those in the audience and from those on social media. You are going to be judged. It's not nice. And obviously, I don't condemn that. Anybody deserves to have that intentional, direct, malicious comments towards them saying you're fat, you're out of shape, this and that. But you do have to have that expectation, especially when you're stepping on stage in nothing but just your bikini, shorts, whatever it is.
On that, mate, there's like you're completely bang on, and I agree with you. Like, it needs to be expected that you're gonna have critique from everyone and anyone, right? Just expect it. But there's a way in which that comment needs to be and should be put across, right? In terms of it being, let's try and make it somewhat constructive. Yeah. How can this comment that, in essence, will likely be taken as an insult towards whoever it is being directed, but how can I portray it in a way that this person can actually benefit from the comment I'm going to make? Like, whether that's potentially dieting a little bit longer or taking a little bit more time out to grow, whatever that may be, but trying to add a bit of a positive connotation, a bit of a positive spin on it, rather than just the what the fuck that person is.
Well, like constructive criticism.
Yeah,
rather
man.
than trying to belittle them.
Yeah.
And I think
There's
regardless.
another point I'll make as well. You know that PCA page? A lot of the hate comments on there don't come from people within the industry or people who know anything. Like on the show that I did, the one that I won, the video of me, I got a hate comment on mine.
What the only show that you've done?
The only show. And I got a hate comment, right? This guy commented, this like 15-year-old kid commented, #team no legs. My biggest body, and I was like, really?
You're gonna get it.
Just say no arms, and like at least it makes sense. But
I think another thing to add on to what you were saying, Billy. But first of all, I just wanted to kind of preface with saying, don't misconstrue expectation with acceptance. Like, you should expect it, but it's not accepted. You shouldn't accept that kind of hate comment towards you. But kind of going off from what you were saying, I think if you want to be positive and you want to give some kind of constructive criticism, maybe DM that person. Go onto the page and drop them a private direct message, and then you can just voice your opinion there. And then that's where you can word it in a nice way, in a nice manner, but then it's also private. It's not put out there publicly.
You know for a fact, no one would. The person's so highly unlikely to do that. They're doing it on the PCA page because it's almost like an element of like them being protected because they're not.
Adrenaline rush as well. People love it.
Yeah,
you want that retaliation.
Definitely.
People like the little argument, don't they? Like, I mean, if you really want to give someone advice, DM them and just ask, do you want some feedback for how you looked? And if they want,
you get accused of trying to poach them.
If you're even this, right, if you're that displeased with what you're looking at and you envisage that for what you envisage bodybuilding to be and what you're seeing PCA post is so far from that, so polar, keep fucking scrolling. Don't comment. Don't even like it. Just keep going. Like, you're not commenting on guys that are professional bodybuilders that are at the top of their game. You're commenting on someone who 24 hours later is going to be in the van driving around on his fucking paper round, or he's sitting in an office. Like, you're doing nothing of benefit.
It would literally be like us turning up to a Sunday league football team and like shouting abuse from the sidelines at how they're playing.
Not even that. Like, once they finish the match and they're walking back to the car and we're walking up to him going, "God, you played really shit in that car," and he's got no idea you are. You're not even there to watch. You've just fucking shown up, and that's it. Nothing constructive. But people like to be people like to be negative for the sake of it, right? It's just a weird fucking thing, and it is rife in this industry for sure.
Yeah.
And do you
I
know
think
what as
going
well? Most of the people commenting shit have no right to, because who are they? Like, who are these people? Like, I mean, fair enough. If you're a pro,
Or
you
you're
have
Matt,
some right to comment
you
on
got
things,
fucking Harry
but
Rambo comment, and then fair play. But other than that, crack on.
But the problem is the ones who are commenting, they don't have no interest whatsoever, and the ones who are not commenting, they don't also care. They're as you say, like the pros, they don't care. The pros are only focusing on themselves. The ones that are going to be commenting are the ones who just they don't have any self-esteem, they don't have compassion or whatever within themselves. So they just want to try and bring everybody else down to their level,
Yeah.
I'm very
just
rarely,
just basically wankers.
pretty
yeah,
much.
I've very rarely, if ever, seen anyone that I actually regard, like hold of a high regard, or have any respect for, comment on a PCA post. Like, I've just not seen it. Anyone that's
I'll comment if I like something. Like if something looks
okay,
cool,
yeah,
I'll
all
comment
right,
and be like, "That's fucking
commented in
sick."
a way that is seen as negative, then is what I'm getting across. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I think with
I'm just
first
gonna go and
time as
comment on
well.
Billy's on him and just be like, "Fat."
I think with first timers as well, going a bit like towards the other end of the spectrum when someone is good, it's knowing that, and you see it with more experienced bodybuilders as well. Don't chase fullness.
Mm,
Most people have no business pushing carbs to that point, like where you're close to spinning. Condition is king. Like I don't care what you say, condition is king. Most people they chase this full look and they fuck it anyway. Because to
yeah,
get full and stay as conditioned as you are, if you are genuinely that lean, it's like how many people get it. Like you see it at the Olympia, but these are the
yeah,
best people in the world, and they struggle a lot of the time to nail fullness and condition. So
it's
when you
very
see first timers that like, oh, I'm going to get on stage full bro, I'm going to don't don't go conditioned. Like you've got muscle, great, not as much as you think you have. Go for conditioning and let that take you forward. Don't start playing around because you see people at the other end who are actually good almost spoil their look because they're chasing this whole, oh, I want to be full as a house look. It's not necessary. Like, and that's where a good coach comes into it. Like, even with, I'm going to use you as an example because I was there when Dan was tweaking things on show days with you. Like, you want to be as full as you can, but you never chase 100% fullness. No one does because the risk versus reward is just nonsensical.
yeah. And you need to realize, like, even like I'm talking from first-hand experience, like more often than not, especially at the level we're discussing, you have got nowhere near the amount of size that it takes to be really, really fucking aggressive with these
Yeah,
loads. And like you said, it rarely, if ever, needed to be that aggressive with it, especially as a first timer, unless you're one of the genetic fucking anomalies that rarely occur. Is massively unlikely. And I had that a couple of weeks back with one of my first timers, and it was he asked the question of like what his peak week was going to look like and how many days out does he start loading from. And I almost had to rein him back and try and explain like we don't need to load you up for days, mate. Like you don't need that. Your body don't need that. We just need to put a little bit in 48, 24 hours before, and that is it. Like we don't need to be, but it's purely based on what they've watched, what they've seen.
yeah,
I
It's
think also they perceive it as an opportunity to binge and indulge.
potentially, of
It's like,
course,
oh, it's peak week now. Obviously, we're getting there. Obviously, we know carb loading, so they just see that as an opportunity.
yeah,
Yeah, let me just load up. But it's more not based on they're trying to chase a look. It's more based on their hunger,
based on emotion, yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
and emotions. Yeah.
it's like I don't know how you guys prefer to do it. Like, obviously, we all switch things up for different people because everyone has different requirements. But I have never peaked someone with like dirty food. If it's not been on your plan for the last 8 weeks at least, I'm not putting it in there. And it's when someone says, "Oh, peak week, what am I having?"
Yeah,
600 gram of potato, mate. That's what you're having. Oh, no Five Guys. You're not Mark Hector. I don't know. Like, you don't require.
I
It's
peaked
the
on
look
burger
of
and fries.
disappointment.
I
if
peaked on
someone
burger
asked,
and fries, but I did it the whole way
someone
through
asked me
prep.
someone asked me to peak on a burger or peak on a sushi, I would tell them to run and jump. I wouldn't do it.
No,
The only time I've done it was with my client Dan, but that's because we had back-to-back shows. we done a show on a Saturday and Sunday. That's the only reason.
But the thing is, like,
I
knowing
know.
you and
Yeah.
knowing how meticulous you are, like, very few people are like that. And I know if you're going to do something, you've done it 4 or 5 times before. Like, I know how you work anyway.
I mean, I was in the toilet with him holding the bottle while I was pissing in it.
I wouldn't be surprised if I saw you with Five Guys counting out his chips, to be quite honest, because I know you're that meticulous with stuff. But when people had a cheat meal for 10 weeks, 15 weeks, whatever, oh, where's my Five Guys? No.
But again, just to kind of elaborate on that, the only reason why I done it was because he used a diuretic, and it was a loop diuretic, so it just flushed out everything.
Yeah.
He was so flat on the show on Saturday, so I had to push him up. I think he was something like 97 kilograms, and I wanted to push him up to 100 kilograms. So I'm just trying to put in as much food as I can.
That's the thing.
But you can't do that with potatoes or rice cakes.
No, I get that. But you going off that as well, it's the expectation of what drugs are we using. You're a first time.
But that's the only time I see, like, a burger and fries is only ever going to work if you are taking a diuretic, because that amount of like sodium dump for like a natural competitor, you've spilled them straight away. It's impossible not to. If you've got diazide in, you can somewhat save it, but you can't with a natural guy. You're not getting away with a burger and fries the night before, because you just don't have time because of the electrolytes more than anything. You're just going to stay fucking watery.
Ultimately, they just don't have the size. They don't have that level of muscularity that warrants any kind of refeed or burger and chips, whatever it may be.
With someone natural, I wouldn't even manipulate water or sodium.
No, I didn't with my natural guys this year. It was pointless.
There's no need.
I used Peak Max. That was it.
How do you run your Peak Max? Do you just follow the tub?
I know, I taper it. So I do on the first day. I'll do like 2 with meals 1, 3, and 5. Then the next day, I think it will be like 3 with meal 1, 3 with meal 3, and then I basically see how they look in the evening by the end of their load and base the last serving off of that. Then I'll usually do a small serving, like 2 with meal 1 on show day, and keep it protein fats with it.
Yeah. So I run it in the background. As soon as I start loading, whether it's I personally will always do like a day or so of fat loading first. Then I'll introduce carbs. Then I'll taper the carbs down with some fats. Then show day pro fats, and then carbs to pump if necessary. And I'll taper the Peak Max up as the week goes. I'll do the same.
Pretty much the same then, but I do it probably in a shorter period.
Yeah, me and Henry are anti fat loading.
Yeah, I don't fat load.
I do the same with Peak Max as what Henry said, but I start 24 hours before I start loading food in as well.
Yeah.
Just a serving, yeah.
I mean, this alone just goes to show that there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat.
And like you said, I know all you guys will do burger and fries, but I did it for mine, and I know my look is better with it, especially because I used the diazide. I think that bump of sodium was needed to give something to pull from. Otherwise, I would have been flat as a pancake with that. So it's just everyone does things differently, didn't they? Like, but you need a trained eye to do it. Like, if I didn't have Tom prepping me, I wouldn't have done the burger and fries because I wouldn't have trusted that. So I would have gone with something set. If I was prepping myself, I would have done a linear load across the week and just monitored the look every morning, I think.
Yeah. See, like with me and fat loading, I tend to like when someone says they're 20 weeks out, I always say, look, at that point you're 19 weeks out. Because I don't count peak week as a week. Yeah. It's just like you should be ready at that point. So if I had a show on a Sunday with a client, I'd start food probably around the Wednesday. But at that point, you're hitting the point then where your prep's done. You should be there. So I'll just put fats in. I won't load like a ridiculous amount. I'll probably put like 15, 20 grams in a meal just to satiate that hunger, stop them dropping any more. Just to tide them over, so it allows me that one more day just before I can put carbs in, and it just kind of bridges the gap. I don't necessarily believe in like 150 grams of fats or anything like that. I don't do high fats. I just kind of put the food back in.
Do you just run them at maintenance?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And because
for me, I just don't like the risk of running that higher fat day because of what it can do to someone's stomach. Like, that's the worry for me with that higher fat day, especially if they're being on like super low fats, like under 30 grams, and then they're doing one day at like 80, 90. It's almost, to me, equivalent of throwing a Five Guys in, that level of unknown.
See, like I would have to be desperate to pull fats. I don't like pulling fats at all. I always like to keep I always try and stick to like the old rule of like a gram, half a gram per kilo of body weight. It's like 40, 50 grams. If I have to go below that, I'm like, I must be shitting my pants, to be fair. And I can say that because I've never had to do it to a client. So
I've had everyone I prepped this year down to about 25. Because for me, it's Will Dyson taught me I was doing that, and he was like, no, he was like, pretty much like carbs are preserving performance.
yeah,
He said favour them in every scenario you can.
yeah, that's fair.
He told, oh, Bill, you would have heard that as well, wouldn't you?
Certainly, yeah.
That's just logical, really.
But I think as well, obviously, especially when you're trying to get a certain look, especially with first timers, if any of our coaches said to us, this is what we're going to do, you just be like, yeah, okay. Especially with a first timer, just like, oh, we're going to put some fats in today. It's such a mental lift for them. And I think just that mental lift and the excitement and the adrenaline they get off that, even that in itself almost helps preserve a look, because it just takes a little bit of the fatigue away from them. It's a bit of excitement. They start getting excited for the show. It's like, oh, the wheels are in motion, rather than one more day of just hitting the deck. And I do it almost more for I mean, all of my peaks have been females where they don't need a lot of carbs, comparatively. So it's almost like trickle things in, just so it feels like something needs to be done. Like a carb load doesn't even have to be massive. Like I don't think any of my females have ever gone over maintenance calories really on a peak, because it's not necessary, because the muscle mass just is not there. But just the word carb load, it boosts people so much and they get excited. And I think mentally, that's a massive thing, especially for a first timer, because they're like, oh, we're doing something now. And it's great.
I think to pull that in and to bring it back to the relevancy of the episode, I think we could all agree that another part of the expectation is, if you're working with a coach, just trust in your coach, because as I said, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
We all have our own different methodologies and our own different approaches. Just because you might have heard from your best mate in the gym or the next guy or somebody on social media saying this is how they run their peaks or their dieting phases, their coach might have a different approach. So just expect that you will hear multitude of different approaches, but you just have to believe in your coach, the one that you're working with.
Yeah,
it happens
whatever
to
way
me
you do
pretty
it, it all ends up in the same result anyway. If you look at the food intake over the week,
Yeah.
if all of us
Everyone
eat
did
one
that coach
person,
knows though, didn't they? That your clients will always. I even literally had one today. Your clients will message you, or you'll ask them a question, and you go, "Wait, why have you checked?" And they go, "Oh, because so and so told me that this is, or can we add this to my plan because so and so said it." And like, there is there's a million things, ways to go about it. And usually the questions are always drug related. So and so said this drug would be really good for me right now. Okay, but no,
Again,
it's
yeah,
every
you
drug
just
that can help you grow muscle. Do we just put them all in at once now? Then is that just? But and then on prep as well, like your clients will. I feel like too many cooks spoils it, right? So they'll have like 4 people teaching them how to pose because like someone goes in the gym, oh, I'll have a look over your posing. So then you've got 4 people who have looked, and now you've got 4 versions of a front double bicep, for example.
Yeah.
How confused the first time is becoming. So I think, like you said, just listen to what your coach says. If your coach says, go with this posing coach, only listen to them. This is what we're doing with nutrition. Don't question it and don't ask 6 other people in the gym their thoughts on it, because you're just going to fry your brain.
That's what I was going to say, like where Harry said about when it comes to peak week, just kind of like putting full faith in your coach and just executing what they've said and not letting what anyone else is saying kind of pull you askew a little bit, throw you askew. It goes for the entirety of your prep, or the entirety of the time that you're working with a coach. So whether that is anything to do with supplementation and drugs, yes, ask questions, but don't take advice from someone that at the end of the day you're not paying for.
If anything, you can ask those questions and then take them back to your coach and then ask your coach.
That's exactly what I said. That's why I said, yes, ask questions. Questions are absolutely fantastic. Of course they are. But not to the point where it's like you're allowing that to be so influential to the point where it's like
You don't want it to distort your yeah,
I mean,
your
going back to Billy's first point, I think, where it's about going to a prep as a first timer, like just enjoy it, get work towards your time on stage. And one thing, like I'll always say to clients, to me, especially if it's someone that was the first timer, it's like you pay me money to guide you on this process. You enjoy it. It's going to suck at times. You're going to hate life at times. But when it comes to stress, when it comes to decisions, that is what you pay me for. Let me take the reins. You pay me because you trust me. Trust in that, trust in the process, and you just do what you need to do and savor the moments rather than stressing about the little things that are completely irrelevant to you. Because at the end of the day, whatever I tell you as a coach or advise you as a coach, I expect you to follow, ask questions, ask whys or why nots, by all means. But you're paying someone to take the stress away from you. So you pay for a cleaner in your house. You pay them to clean your house. That's it. Like, so you don't have to worry. And I think that's what a client needs to take from that is when you've got a coach, enjoy the process, embrace every moment, the good ones and the bad, because there'll be plenty of shit ones, especially if you're a first time when you don't expect to know what X amount of cardio or X amount of calories feels like. And just do exactly what the shitty phrase says, trust the process, trust the coach, do as you're told. And that's what it comes down to. And you will have the smoothest prep by doing that.
I think a good one as well for us to briefly touch on, keeping in line with the topic, the theme for this podcast in terms of like expectations as first timers, like you should almost take it as somewhat of an inevitability for the most part, and I think I speak from a majority of us, that the first time you ever go through the extremes of a contest prep, you are going to feel emotions and ways which you've never felt before, and you're going to make slip ups. You're going to execute certain things wrong because you've never been in this environment. So if that's from a nutritional standpoint, or if you find yourself one day falling short on output, or you've done increased output, it's very rare that your first time prep is ever going to be just linear in terms of one, adherence, and two, accuracy. And if it does happen, you do slip up, you do fall short in terms of your accuracy, your adherence, how important it is to just regain that stability in what you've been doing previously and not shit the bed and not keep it from your coach.
So I was about to say, like, adding to that, the most important thing from that is if you do make a mistake, tell your coach as soon as you've made the mistake. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till the next check-in. Like, if I've got a client on prep, like, any working hours that I implement with clients go out the window. If you're on prep, like, I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I would rather you call me at 2 o'clock in the morning than face plant a box of Cocoa Pops. So, like, just talk to your coach. And if you feel something coming on, or you feel like you're at that point of breaking or you're emotionally drained, reach out. At the end of the day, we're not counsellors and we're not therapists, but we're there to guide.
yeah.
And
I know I'm a big advocate, and I know you concur with me as well, Henry. We've said this before many times about it's always easy to check in when you're feeling good, when you've had a good week, you've had a good day. It's always easy to do that. But when you've had a bad week, that's when a lot of people tend to avoid that check-in. That's when it's so pivotal to check in with your coach.
Yeah.
And if you have if you have an exceptionally good day where everything's like impeccable, everything's on point, and you've not deviated from any box, what's your coach going to say? Yeah, brilliant, crack on, do it again. But it's more of a case of when you have that slip up, you then have that coach there who's going to provide you with that moral compass, that support, that guidance, education, perspective, and the list just goes on. So it's always
Especially when, sorry mate, just going back to what I said initially, is like when these slip ups occur, but you've been given it road to pro, or I'm going to absolutely obliterate this prep, and then you find yourself having a little bit of a late night binge, and you've slipped up and you've not been as accurate and as resilient from a mindset perspective as you thought you would be, you see yourself in a really shit position because you feel crap about yourself. You really, really do. I've seen it firsthand. I had someone not too long ago who who was prepping, and it was only a matter of weeks out, and I couldn't put my finger on why the fuck his weight was just fluctuating like crazy. Hadn't changed anything. And then the short of it was, it turned out that it was around the 5 week mark that he was on about a baseline of like 1,700 calories. So food was relatively low, right? And around the 4 week out mark, he'd been eating, I think it was for just shy of 7 days, 3,500 calories, right? So he'd been doing that as well as doing an hour's worth of cardio on top of it, which I only had him doing 25 minutes, and then doing 25,000 steps a day to try and combat the excess food that he was allowing himself to eat. Yeah. So it leaves not only you in a shit position, but also your coach sitting there twiddling their thumbs, questioning, what the fuck has happened here? What can I try and rectify? What can I put in place to mitigate that? And
It's doing nobody any favors.
It doesn't do anyone any favors. Absolutely not. There is nothing to be gained from that at all.
And
I
that's
want to make a comment
even
on this.
without
Right?
like
This is something I feel quite strongly on. It's okay to make fuck ups and prep, but I think if you're continually making them, I think you really need to have a harsh reality check and look at yourself and think, is this for me? Because I know all four of us sitting in here have prepped before, and all four of us have got through a prep without fucking up, because it's when it's something you want to do, it's very easy.
Yeah.
It's hard, but at the same time, it's easy because it's just what you want to do. So I have a rule with my clients. The rule of three. If you make 3 fuck ups on prep to your nutrition, I mean, like little things aren't going to count, like going over on your steps. But if you cheat on your diet 3 times through prep, it's done. Well, at least from my part as the coach, I'm pulling the plug on my end.
Yeah.
But I think if you've cheated on your diet 3 times through prep, you don't care about your prep.
Yeah,
And I'm not letting my reputation get ruined because you can't be asked to follow your diet. I know it sounds harsh, but I think it's true.
If you're doing that at 14 weeks out, then absolutely not. Yeah, it's not what's for you, man.
And I think kind of without the caveat of extra food and trying to like make up for things or compensate for things, just don't do more than you're told regardless. You're not doing yourself any favours by doing an extra 10 minutes on the Stairmaster. You're not doing yourself any favours by leaving your almond butter or your potato off your plate. Like, the plan's there for a reason. And even if like you're only dropping £1 a week, if your coach thinks that's okay and that's the rate of like loss that you need to be working at that point of your prep, just go with it and trust your coach. Don't try and overcompensate, because then when changes are made, you're going to be like, why is nothing changing now? And you've fucked it, and you've made your own prep harder. And at some point, you're going to miss that potato that you took out, or you're going to want that 10 minutes on the Stairmaster back, because now you're doing an extra 20 to compensate for it. And I mean, I had someone before who had messed up, and to like counteract that, they increased their own cleanse. And I was just like, didn't tell me. Like, I was like, this is going well. What the fuck? But then, because like I said, look, once I found like he was honest with me and whatever, like, there's no point telling him off. I just explained why you don't need to do these things. But if that had carried on, I'd have been like, oh, you're up to 60 now. He'd have been up to 120 or even higher. And at that point, especially if you're a first timer and you don't know, and you're just trusting someone to give you advice, especially where lipolytics or anything else is concerned, you're jeopardising your health. And none of us want that. Like, none of us, I know no one in this group chat would put anyone in that position where we would jeopardise health for a trophy. Some coaches probably would, but I know none of us would.
That correlates with what you were saying, Henry, and I just wanted to extend on that about you saying it sometimes comes across as you being harsh. It's not. As the coach, you'll notice the ones who actually have the best interest in the athlete's health and their well-being will be harsh. They will be transparent with them, and they will say, look, 3 times you fucked up on your diet, it's now out. Or from my end, I'm pulling the plug. And then what you'll notice is another coach who cares more just about their accolades and putting up a post on their Instagram than the whole post, saying my athlete done amazing. They're the ones that don't care about your health or your well-being. They just care about their own.
Yeah, good point.
And I think it works
You know,
both
the thing
ways.
is as well, Yeah, go on. Sorry, Fletcher.
Sometimes your coach will be harder because they care. Like the girl I had doing first time was this last weekend. She did mixed disability. When prep started, I had to say to her, I know you're doing mixed disability, but any decision I make, as long as I know you're able, your disability is not a thought process because I'll start thinking emotionally then. Like, I knew she could do something, like, she can walk on a Stairmaster fine, she can walk on a Stairmaster better than flat ground. So, okay, well, I'm not even having a step target, but you'll be doing more Stairmaster than most people would ever dream of. And it's a harsh reality because that's what needs to happen to get you into the shape that you need to be in. And to anyone else, it would almost seem cruel. But if your coach is pushing you because that's what needs to be done, then that's just what needs to be done. You've just got to do it as well.
Yeah.
I suppose you're actually setting an athlete up for failure if you're not harsh with them.
Yeah. Either way.
Yeah. You're setting them up for failure, and then also on top of that, you just have no interest whatsoever. You don't really care about what they achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you go through a prep with a first timer as a coach, I think you almost need to keep in your mind that it's not an inevitability that you're going to get to this show, right? As much as you may have been through mock preps before or X amount of diet phases, nothing is ever going to compare to the actual stress and fatigue that accumulates in a legitimate competition prep scenario, right? And you don't know whether that athlete that you're taking through that experience as a first timer is going to make it through, all right? Whether that is through a physical element or a mindset perspective, like we've been talking about, it isn't an inevitability that they're going to be able to make it, unfortunately, and that's just a byproduct of a first timer's prep. That's how you find out the ones that are going to see it are going to want to see it through and keep it as a hobby, as something to continue with moving forward, and the ones that decide, actually, no, I realise it's not for me.
I think
Yeah,
adding on to that as well, if you are a first timer, make sure you've built up an element of a good amount of muscle mass. But I think more so for females, just because of how they're inherently built, have a good off season, build some muscle, but have a good off season in the sense that if you don't push food and get your food high enough in an off season, your prep is going to suck. Because if your maintenance is only 1,800 calories, those 20 weeks, 24 weeks, however long you prep for, they're going to be vile. Because if 1,200 calories is your like deficit range to start with at 20 weeks out, whether you do that through food or cardio or a combination with lipolytics, it's going to be a long 20 weeks and you're setting yourself up for failure. And I know a lot of people say I think it's more so with females. They're scared to push weight. They're scared to push food in an off season. But doing that will give you such a much smoother prep, especially to start with, because you've got the stored energy of an element of body fat, but also you're starting in a much better position where calories and lack of cardio is required. That actually enables you to finish in a stronger place in the same conditioning. And the same with guys, like have a good off season, have a solid off season of not just drinking and eating pizza with your mates. Have a structured eating plan. Get your food high. Yeah, have an off plan or two a week. Great, socialise with your mates, fine. But set yourself up before prep even starts. Don't just be like, oh, I'm prepping now. Now I need to switch on. You should be switched on for 6 months, 12 months as a minimum before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Billy, have you got to dip out
I'll shoot, lads.
Yeah. Should we wrap up there for this one then? And
that one?
Yep, sound.
Yeah. Right. Thanks everyone for tuning in for another episode of the Warrior Unfiltered podcast. Obviously, we'll get everyone together again. We'll do something else. Obviously, show your support on this channel by hitting the like button, dropping a review. You can also check out on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe on there. And then also just a shout out to our supplement sponsors.
You want to do that, Billy, because it's your first time you drop your code.
Yeah, we'll do this one. So obviously, Your Protein Midlands, we're all sponsored by them. Billy, if you want to do your discount code.
The only code you ever use from now until the end of time is Stella10.
Right, so that was TBW10. Right, guys. Nice catching up with you all.
Cheers, mate.
Catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Peace.